Howdy, my name is Katie Pattison, and I'm a junior English major, communication minor from Fort Worth, Texas. My project revolves around something many of us do each day. Actually, several of you might be doing it as I speak. The focus of my research is daydreaming, specifically maladaptive daydreaming, or MD for short. I've experienced low-level MD for as long as I can remember. But like most people who have it, I had no idea it was a thing until I started Googling and self-diagnosing. Maladaptive daydreaming occurs when an individual experiences intense fantasies that can last anywhere from several minutes to several hours a day. These daydreams are immersive and often have complex characters or storylines. Another staple of MD is repetitive physical activity, such as pacing or shaking while daydreaming, and engagement in daydreams through speech or motion. In addition, there are triggers for daydreaming, such as certain words or music. For example, as a child, I would take characters from TV shows and create a little world in my head. I had an elaborate storyline where I had ice powers and called myself Freeze Girl. I would like to note this was before Frozen and Elsa. When I daydreamed, I would flap my arms, and daydreams were especially vivid when I listened to music. There are different levels of MD, however. Those who experience it intensely will shape their lives around getting time to daydream and spend hours and hours in their fantasies. Not much is known or has been studied on MD. Because of this lack of information, many individuals with the condition are unaware that they experience it until finding online communities of people who experience the same thing. With my project, I hope to better understand the cause and effects of maladaptive daydreaming, as well as inform others on this condition. My planned novel, entitled Daydreamed, follows 3 young teenagers who meet each other on an online maladaptive daydreaming forum. Through the narration of both the characters' lives, as well as their daydreams, the story will show an inside look as to what MD is like and how it impacts social skills, mental health, and general life satisfaction. The selection I will be reading today is part of the opening of the first chapter and introduces us to Allie, an 18-year-old college freshman attending online school so that she can help out at her mother's alteration store. Daydreaming has consumed her life, and she does so for hours at a time, impacting her schoolwork and causing tension with her mother. She daydreams to escape her anxiety disorder and to live in the minds of characters, as well as play out her dream of becoming an actress one day. Chapter 1, Allie. When I was 8 years old, I was told daydreaming was a sin. This Sermon on the Mount came from my dad, back when family mattered more than his vision of Jesus Christ. My mom and I would sit at the front by the altar in our pastels, while Dad waved his hand and anxiously fixed his tie. He always wore a purple tie, said it represented God's mercy. Anyway, that late summer Sunday, he gave the usual spiel to his cheaply constructed chapel and all the eager-eyed Christians it held. The First Church of Christ in Lonewood, Texas, sat 2 roads behind 2nd Street, and its grass parking lot always seemed to be filled for the 10 a.m. service. I don't remember the beginning of the speech, nor the Bible verse that gave it context. All I remember is, don't let your mind be fooled by the daydreams. Don't get lost in your desires. To be consumed in fantasy is to be consumed by the desires of the devil. Too much wandering will send the soul down a dark road. Then there was a silence, along with a couple amens. My hands traced the top of the choir books. How dare he? I was a good Christian. I loved Jesus more than my own mother. I said my prayers every night. Yes, I lied to my teacher a few times and coveted my fair share of items, but damn it, I was a good Christian. Why did it matter that I let myself go to a world I created? I spent hours in my room daydreaming. I paced back and forth, immersing myself scene to scene. I had conversations. I acted in plays. I was a superhero for a while. Each scene a movie, one that I could feel. How is it a sin to wander? I remember my mom looking at me while my father spoke. She wouldn't understand the extent of my daydreams until I was 18 years old, but there was always a part of her that knew my head was somewhere else. Mother's intuition, I guess, mixed with the several times she would see me pacing my floor, sometimes moving my hands or making sounds that resembled a conversation. All this was before I discovered the term maladaptive daydreaming, and long before my mom would ever understand what it was and why it mattered so much to me. After his anti-fantasy sermon, I went up to my dad and asked him if I was going to hell for daydreaming. What was left of his paternal empathy lingered for a second, and he gave me a look of pity that turned into a gentle smile. Darling, Jesus loves you, but if you disobey, there are always consequences. God sent those consequences in the form of divorce about a year later. Dad felt he was called to more righteous work on the West Coast. Of course, this announcement was made several days after my mother came clean to him about her bisexuality. I love you, my mother had begged. This is just a part of who I am. A week later, Dad stepped down from his position, then left behind his over-imaginative daughter and his wifely abomination. Mom and I went to another church for a little bit, mostly to pray for her new store and to wash off the excess shame which never really went away. I hadn't thought about Dad or the church in a long time, but finding my old green church dress had sent me spiraling down a rabbit hole. Having been tucked away in the back of my closet for 10 years, my childhood wardrobe was finally being cleaned out as part of one of my mother's sporadic cleaning episodes. Allie, do you have those clothes? Mom called from the living room. I'm about to head to Goodwill. This was one of the first times we'd ever given away clothes. One of the consequences of having a parent that ran an alteration store was the ability to fix clothes that had become too short or never really fit in the first place. Plus, my mom had this thing where we kept instead of removed. Not really hoarding, it was more everything had a story and needed to be kept for sentiment. Which I figured, based off my own reminiscing, was true. Yeah, here. I shoved the dress into a black garbage bag. The hefty bag was stretched to its maximum. Adding even one more shirt would have caused it to burst. I tied it and lifted it strenuously, my arms awkwardly dipping at the weight. Waddling my way to the living room, I plopped the load onto the patch of tile by the front door. My breathing was hard and heavy. Follow me. My mom opened the front door. I resumed my battle against the bag until I was able to toss it in the back seat of her Chevy Malibu. All right, I love you. She slammed the back seat door shut, kissed the top of my head, and opened the driver's side door. I might run to the store to get lunch for the week, but I'll see you in a bit. I gave a wave as she zoomed off. Texas still managed to be a blazing 90 degrees in late October, so I quickly made my way back inside. I let the screen door slam behind me, and I took an immediate right into my room. My laptop sat open on my messy desk. 3 assignments were due this week, and an online test had to be taken by 5 p.m. I looked at the clock. 12:56. It didn't matter much anyway. There was still plenty of time. Plenty. I picked up my black wireless headphones and put them in. Then I started to pace. My usual trail. Back and forth from my dresser to the mirrored sliding doors of my closet. No more than 4 feet. A pulsing bass rhythm hit my eardrums, and I let my mind go to where it wanted to be. Thank you.